You are experiencing the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast.
It is May 29th, 2024, and welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty, where we're bringing you the people and the organizations fighting for liberty around the country and in your region. Today, we have kind of an interesting show. We just recently had the Libertarian National Convention, and so we're going to be getting into some issues with that. And for that, we brought out our special top secret guest, our invisible hand, James Just, who is usually behind the scenes, but he is also the Sacramento County Party Chair for the Libertarian Party, so we felt like his insights might help out a little, add a little extra to the show. So we're going to be getting into that with him, talking about some issues with who the presidential nominee is and the big Trump speech. And also, too, we're going to find out a little bit about what's going on our sort of our sister show on public access as well, Libertarian Counterpoint. And finally, we'll hit our Knucklehead Noise Patrol to round out the show with something silly, and you'll just have to watch to stick around to find out. But before we get to any of that, let me introduce you to the rest of the panel. In our lower left-hand corner, we have our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim Everett. He is a pilot in the state of California. In our lower right-hand corner, we have Leon, the word Brathwaite, last word in liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. In our upper left-hand corner, we have our very visible today, invisible hand, James Just. And as I said, he is the Sacramento County chair of the Libertarian Party. And my name is Jason McPhee, and I'll be your host today. So we always, as I said, start out with a quote, a Liberty quote. And this one kind of is apropos to what happened at the convention, I think. You know, this was a kind of a big thing that happened where it was another party's nominee showing up at the Libertarian convention to speak there and make his pitch to the Libertarian Party, which doesn't happen very often, ever, I don't think. And but I thought this quote from Ronald Reagan was kind of interesting. He said, "I believe the very heart and soul of conservatism is libertarianism. I think conservatism is really a misnomer, just as liberalism is a misnomer for the liberals." And of course, he was the 40th president of the United States and the 33rd president as well. And just as a bit of trivia as well.
33rd governor.
33rd governor, yes, 33rd governor of California, rather. And just as a little bit of trivia, he also was one of the kickoffs for the reboot of Milton Friedman's Free to Choose as well. So he introed some of that as well. So just thought I'd throw that in there. So what do you guys think about this quote? Are conservatives really libertarians in disguise?
I'm going to take the roots of these words at their meaning. And so no, conservatism and libertarianism are fundamentally different. Conservatives, by their definition, want to conserve things as they are, right? They're slow to change, slow to move. Libertarians are fundamentally, if you want to boil everything down to it, it's individual human rights. And that can sometimes change rapidly, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse, but it changes rapidly. And it's just fundamentally different from what conservatism is.
Well, James, as the only conservatarian on this show, I have to tell you, I don't think you understand what a conservative is. Okay? Conservatives believe in property rights. They believe in free speech. They believe in limited government. All of the things which I believe libertarians are supposed to believe in. And is that correct?
I don't see anywhere where conservatives have believed in limited government. I just don't. It's never happened.
You don't believe what?
It hasn't happened in the last 70, 80 years.
No, what did you just say? You haven't done
years.
What? You haven't done what?
We have not gotten a smaller government anytime conservatives have been in power. It's never happened.
No, if you want to tell me, we have our goals different from our practice, then I will have to agree with you.
I don't think
this is the ideas of conservatives are just like the ideas of libertarians. But
well, Leon, I gotta say, please stop practicing. Government is just blowing up here on us.
I'm just saying they're different words for a reason. Otherwise, we'd be using the same words.
Well, okay, James, let me ask you something. Okay, here we go again about the difference between goals and practice. We have had many libertarians on this show, several libertarians on this show who are actually in government. Well, they are the local level. All right, we had this woman from I forget what some city here in California. We had some from other places around the country. Not a single one of them ever told us about a government program that they got rid of. Not one.
No, you're right, because one person can't do it.
Okay, it just gets back to the point.
They have a whole movement, Leon. They have a whole party that controls states, that controls counties, that's been in control of the government, and they can say, "Oh, we're conservative. We really are conservative." But when push comes to shove, they're not.
Well, I will agree. I will agree. We have a big difference in terms of conservatives. There's a big difference between our goals, our ideals, and our practices. But I am telling you, libertarians, when they get into government, are no different.
You are what you do, not what you say.
Well, I will agree with that too. But libertarians so far have not shown that they are willing to do anything to fight a change to limit the size of or the growth of government. Where have you seen that? Which one of them are fighting? Which libertarian in government is fighting to remove program XYZ? Which one? We had several of them on this show.
Thomas Massey, the closest thing to a libertarian that we have in Congress, has asked to end the Department of Education a number of times.
Okay.
He's actually submitted the bills.
Okay.
And he's the closest thing we have to an actual libertarian in politics anywhere.
Well, sure. I'm agreeing to Rand Paul. I've done the same thing. I agree with you. And that's what libertarians should be doing. And that's what conservatives do too.
But they didn't go anywhere with the conservatives, Leon. It didn't go anywhere. That's my point. The conservatives didn't put it on his back. They have no interest in this.
And one thing I will say is conservatives actually had a chance to elect Ron Paul as their president, and they passed on him.
Conservatives had a chance to stop FISA. They didn't. There's all kinds of things that they claim to want to do, and they never actually do it.
Okay,
when push comes to shove, they're just as good government as anybody else. They just want to push in their direction.
James, let's be clear. Are you talking about Republicans or are you talking about conservatives? Let's be clear here. There's a difference.
There's no difference at the moment.
No.
They are the conservatives.
No.
It's like saying libertarians are the Libertarian Party is the banner for the libertarian thought, whether you like it or not, whether it's good or not. It's the banner for the libertarian thought, just as Republicans are currently the banner for conservative thought. They are.
No, James.
You might not like it, Leon, but they are.
Let me tell you something, okay? There are Republicans who are conservatives and there are conservatives who are Republicans. Those things are not one and the same animal, okay? There are Republicans who are libertarians and there are libertarians who are Republicans. Those two are not one and the same thing.
They're in the same boat, row in the same direction. It makes no dang bit of difference.
If you want to tell me the libertarians in the same boat, then I'll have to agree with you. But if you want to put your libertarians out of that boat, then no.
Libertarians in the same boat. We just play them in circles. That's all we do.
We're arguing more than the convention. Tim, you must be the silent minority from the convention because we haven't heard from you yet.
That's because I'm thinking the boat has one oar on it and it's just going in circles.
Kind of like the Libertarian Party, maybe.
Yeah. I just, I wish Mr. Reagan would not have increased the budget and the power and scope of the military-industrial complex while he was in there. Just that one thing, let alone all the other things he did, Sugar Act and all that other stuff, to increase the size and scope of the federal government. So, great quote. But like James was saying, and Leon too, it's different. The difference between what you're espousing and what you're actually doing. The huge difference. They certainly don't walk the talk.
I will. Yes, Tim. Yes, I agree. Yes.
Yeah, that is one thing I will give Reagan is that he had an amazing number of good quotes. But like you said, the follow through can kind of be a little sketchy sometimes.
Sometimes?
Trying to be generous. Okay.
I can understand having to compromise with the world around you and you end up, but where's the compromise? right?
Well,
It's always going bigger, bigger, bigger.
You know,
There's no compromise
James,
there.
I will have to go back and check this, okay? But I think there are two times in history. One of those times was during the Reagan administration, where actually the debt as a percentage of GNP actually declined. I think so. But we have to check that though. I'll check that.
Well, I can tell you from our graph that we show a lot as a percentage. Yeah, debt does decline, but it's usually because of government growth, not because we are not government growth, rather productive growth in the United States, growth. Not because we pay off our bills.
Well, that's true too. That part is true. That part is true.
And not because we reduced some aspect of the federal government or any whatever government we're talking about. It's not a very good litmus test for reducing government is the debt to GDP.
Well, it is not is another good litmus test in the long run. But if we could keep the debt relatively constant, or even as a percentage relatively constant or declining, and we can economic growth and the economy is growing, then yes, we could get our debt more manageable in relation to our economy.
To throw you a bone, Leon, the closest thing we actually came to slowing down the growth of the federal government was the contract with America, Newt Gingrich's thing.
Okay,
the closest thing we actually came.
Yes, I think those are one of those times, as a matter of fact. But yes, I agree with you.
But he would have chosen all the wrong things. So to start with, so
And I tell you,
but I won't give them the bone. At least they actually slowed down the growth of the government.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll take the bone. As a conservatarian on this show, I'll take the bone.
I tell you, the only chance I've ever seen of a conservative finding a war they didn't want to fight is if Democrats happen to be the ones pushing the war, which is recently. But anyways, sorry,
Jason. No, I can't take that one. Okay, even as a joke. Okay. Let me tell you something, okay? We believe in sovereignty, okay? Conservatives believe in sovereignty, okay? And we don't believe in the violation of our sovereignty, and we believe in treaties also, okay? So, so we fight wars sometimes. Okay, but go ahead.
Okay, well, maybe a few less treaties. Let's find out. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tim.
Of all the wars we fight, how many have we won?
Yeah.
Well, is that some kind of trivia question? I'm supposed to know the answer to that one.
That's a pretty easy one. It's pretty easy to answer. I guess you could go from World War II, count that as a win, and then anything after that, and everything after that.
Well, I don't think we have any decisive win after World War II. We don't.
Yeah,
and not even any decisive things we called wars either. There's another part of the problem.
Well, you could technically call North Korea a win, considering the goals when you started it out.
North
Korea still sitting there, so that's the other problem. But
North Korea has not ended; it's just an armistice.
Yes,
but considering the goals, considering the goal, that's actually technically a win, because the goal was to preserve the lines. If I'm just throwing a bone here, Tim. I'm just throwing a bone.
Okay. Yeah.
If you wanted to. So it's a tie. Give Korea a tie until overtime is still in overtime or something.
It's still in overtime, essentially. Right?
Yeah, imagine if George Washington and Ben Franklin and all the founders had been told, your greatest achievements will be in the future of preserving lines around the world. At tremendous military cost. Yeah. Well, anyways, speaking of drawing lines, usually parties, when they have their conventions, they don't allow people in unless they're of the same party. But we had something very unusual this time around. And James, maybe you could bring up the visual here. So Trump actually came to the Libertarian Party Convention, not just Trump too, but RFK. And actually a little bit of this kind of stuff has been happening in some of the states too. For instance, in California, RFK showed up there as well. But this was our convention, our national convention, to nominate our presidential candidate, and so we actually had people who aren't libertarians showing up vying for our party's nomination, which was kind of an interesting thing. And so yeah, there's really kind of one of the many things that tore at the party's unity this time around, and we're going to show some video clips from this, but it's one of the issues was that people who are running the party thought that maybe this is something that would draw attention to us, and it certainly did. Mission accomplished. We did get a lot of extra eyeballs. In fact, every time I tried to search for something about Chase Oliver, our new presidential candidate, I couldn't help but run into 5 stories about Trump before I could find one about Chase. It kind of tells you maybe some of the attention we were getting. But on the other hand, a lot of people were kind of upset about the idea that we would have people who aren't really libertarians showing up there. So before we jump into some of the video, do you guys have any initial thoughts on this whole controversy of having people show up at your convention who aren't really libertarians?
Well,
Go ahead. You guys go ahead.
Tim, go ahead. Tim, go ahead. Go ahead.
I don't have a problem with it. I think, like I say, hey, any news is good news, or it's fine because we get some exposure to the media and that kind of thing. So I think it's okay. I don't like the jeering and just because it hits my sensibilities about manners, about good manners. So I don't like to see people jeered and talked off stages and that kind of thing. I don't think it's polite. So. Anyway, that's all I have to say about the Trump thing.
Well, in general, I think, yes, I agree with Tim, but I don't see why people would be upset about listening to somebody else who may have a perspective that is different from their own. And I think it was very unmanly, right, for some people to be booing Donald Trump at the Libertarian Convention. I really, really think so. And I think that could have all been handled a little bit differently. I watched the Trump speech and I thought it was a good speech for a political speech. Obviously, I think it was, and I think Trump made a very good case as to why the libertarians should support him. Okay, and I mean whether you want to agree with him or not, but at least we know for sure where he stands. He had been president before. He have shown what he can do as president, and I think he made a very good case. And I think there's enough overlap between libertarianism and conservatism, I would say, or republicanism, I should say, because I'm not sure Trump was ever conservative. But I think there's enough overlap there that to make Trump case a viable case. Also, why the Libertarian Party should support him in the general elections in November.
Okay, well, I'm going to say this. Let's say you are a dentist. And you're going to go to a big dental convention, the big, huge yearly dental convention. And you go, and the big main speaker is a podiatrist. What do you care? That's the point about Trump being there, right? It's you don't go to listen to somebody who's not libertarian. Theoretically, you go to conventions to be educated and informed about how to make your local party, your state party, run more efficiently, and we've not done that. And yes, it's true, but as we've gotten exposure, but it won't last past 72 hours. As Jason found out, you search for Chase Oliver, you get Trump. It's overshadowed. No one's going to remember any of this in a week. It's going to be last week's news. No one's going to care. It's not going to matter a hill of beans. Now, on the other side, next week, it's not going to matter a hill of beans because nobody's going to care. They never have before. They're not going to start now. So in a sense, it's a wasted exercise, but go ahead. I don't personally bother it, but in terms of being jeered, that happens at every libertarian convention. If to not expect it would be foolish. It just was. You've not been there before. That's what happens. Libertarians get jeered at libertarian conventions. It's what happened. we're lucky we didn't have a naked guy again. You know, that's just kind of the thing that
A naked Trump.
I
Now, that
prefer
would
the
have been
naked guy
something.
that's Trump and RFK and all these things. I prefer him. I prefer the naked guy. But instead we get something that's not libertarian. It's like I don't go to conventions to listen to a podiatrist.
Okay, so I think to analogize toward Trump, it would be as if the podiatrist was the most famous podiatrist in the world, and he was doing research that showed a link between foot health and dental health. And
there you go.
I think that's the analogy here.
But except there is no link. You're stretching, just like they were stretching, which is fine. It's a convention. They had their. It's fine. But you know, I'm not one who gets upset about it. It's not what I would have done. But I'm also technically not a member of the National Party. I've stopped paying my dues 2 years ago because not necessarily someone took over. It's the way they do business. I can't support that, so I'm not a member of the National Party. And so I actually didn't watch. I watched the UFL. Is what I did over the weekend.
You know, we will get into some of that schism too in the later part of the show when we start talking about Chase Oliver's election. But let's start getting into some of these clips now, because this will really give everybody a sense who's watching, I guess, kind of what it was like there with Trump speaking and sort of what some of his pitch was to the Libertarian Party. And there's actually a few concessions that he did throw out there, which was kind of interesting. So let's start, though, with KOL 1, which was kind of an interesting intro on bridging that gap between him being a conservative versus a libertarian.
Libertarian Party and its national convention on Saturday, the Libertarian Party should nominate Trump for President of the United States. Whoa. That's nice. That's nice. Only if you want to win. Only if you want to win. Maybe you don't want to win. Maybe you don't want to win.
Shoot, I think I got KOL 1 and 2 out of order then, because that must have been KOL, what I meant to be KOL 2. But that was his pitch, essentially, to tell them, hey, you guys should vote for me, and hey, only if you want to win. But let's see if KOL 2 was actually the intro that he gave here, and we'll see if that one actually works.
And I am truly honored to be invited here tonight as the first president in American history to address the Libertarian National Convention. Great honor. A lot of people ask why I came to speak at this Libertarian Convention, and you know, it's an interesting question, isn't it? But we're going to have a lot of fun. Well, in the last year, I've been indicted by the government on 91 different things, so if I wasn't a libertarian before, I sure as hell am a libertarian now.
So apparently being in trouble with the law means being a libertarian. Which, you know, it is interesting. There were some things in his concessions that sort of lean towards some of that. But anyways, what do you guys think about those first two things? One, his sort of opener to the libertarians, and then two, the idea that, hey, you guys need to vote for me only if you want to win. What do you guys think about that?
Well, Jason, I mean, having principles are great. You know, that to me is a good thing. But I mean, everybody know every year, every election cycle, the Libertarians get 1 to 3%, and then we go home and we come back the next 3 years. We nominate somebody, and well, the Libertarians Party does, and another 1 to 3%. This has been going on forever, as far as I can tell. So every year, here's Trump giving you opening a door for you to form a coalition, shall we say, for the Libertarians to form a coalition where they could be part of that winning coalition, where you may have to compromise some of your principles in order to bring Trump into your circle of people that you'll want to vote for. But I don't see why that is a bad thing. I think there's enough, like I said earlier on, there's enough overlap that, to me, between the Libertarian Party and the Republican Party that could allow Trump to be, I wouldn't, maybe not a nominee, but certainly to earn a vote.
Well, I can say if we wanted to be Republicans, we'd be Republicans. That's why we're not. The difference is all the difference. And we don't win. You get Trump in office, we don't win. We still get the trade wars, and he's still going to fight the same wars that they're going to still want us to fight. We're still going to pay for him anyway. We're not going to fight them, but you think they're not still going to send money to Ukraine? They're not still going to send money to Israel? Of course they will. They always do. And he will do it just like he did the last time, right? It wasn't to Ukraine, but he spent the money they asked him to spend, right? And wherever they asked him to spend the money, he spent the money. And you don't actually win by getting Trump. You just don't. Just like we don't win if half the people also said you should support Biden, you should support Biden. We don't win that way either. Playing this game, this left-right game, is where we lose. Choosing the language of the left or the language of the right is where we lose. We have this nasty habit of trying to stick our finger in the hair, pick the language that is flowing, and then try to go that way. And it's silly, but that's what we do.
Okay, let me ask a question here, okay?
Mm-hmm.
A question of practicality. When do you think over the next 50 years, the libertarians will get a chance to fight from the inside? Right now, we're fighting from the outside. Libertarians fighting from the outside, okay? And I will say from the
fight from the inside.
Let me finish.
I'll tell you what happened. No, Leon, this is an easy one. It'll happen the exact same way it happened in Argentina. When everybody is so damn miserable, we will come in from the outside. That's the only way it's going to happen. You cannot fight this monster from the inside. It will have to be like Argentina. And all you have to do is position yourself to be in position when that happens. That's it. It's the only way we're going to do it. The path has been laid for us.
Is there? Okay. All right. Okay. Is there anything that's occurring right now that could put you to say, well, okay, we are making progress? Is there anything? We just nominated the Libertarian Party just nominated Chase Oliver, which to me is a disaster. But we can talk about that.
Hold on, Lee. Yeah, let's get into that later in the show.
We'll talk about that later. But is there anything that you can point to that you can say, you have just said on this show, James, that they even stopped supporting the National Party? And I'm sure there are other people just like you. So is there anything that is you can say that where the Libertarian Party is positioning itself, where in the next 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, they'll be in a position to have a melee come to power?
Yeah.
And to get the answer, hold on. To get the answer, you're going to have to jump online if you're watching us on public access, because we're out of time for public access. So to get James' insight on that, come join us there, and you can catch the rest of the show and hear about Chase Oliver and some other insights as well that we have going on. But back to the show.
Leon, the answer for libertarians have always been bottom up, not top down. It always has. That's always how we are structured. It's the only way our philosophy works. The minute we try to reverse that, we fail because it's anti our philosophy. You're acting against what your philosophy would lead you to believe. You cannot function that way, which is why we always get to a certain point and fail. It's why we never get over the hump. It's because every time we get to the hump, one side or the other gets all button hurt and will decide to do a takeover. Then during the takeover, they act in ways that is antithesis to the philosophy that which you what's the word I'm looking for? Of what you express. And so you will always fail under those conditions. You just will. When you act differently than you speak, you will fail ultimately. Which is why the country is failing, which is why the party is failing, which is why governments are failing, which is why the media is failing. It's why everything is failing, because they say one thing and do another.
Well, Leon, before you respond, let me throw up a little bit more of the Trump clips, because that may give a little bit more to the discussion as well, because he actually does offer a few things to the Libertarian Party in that speech, and a few notable things that came out of it. So, James, maybe you could play KOL number 3.
Overseas, I will support the right to self-custody to the nation's 50 million crypto holders. I say this with your vote. I will keep Elizabeth Warren and her goons away from your Bitcoin. And I will never allow the creation of a central bank digital currency. I will also immediately end the humanitarian disaster on our southern border. We will end it quickly. You cannot have capitalism and also have open borders, because you will soon be turned into a socialist nation, then a poor nation, and finally you will be a failed nation. By ending the border crisis, which we will do immediately, we will save freedom, prosperity, and capitalism in America. And before I even arrive at the Oval Office, shortly after we win the presidency, I will have the horrible war between Russia and Ukraine settled, so we quit spending hundreds of billions of dollars to fight other people's wars, and so that we start immediately saving thousands and thousands of lives.
So there was one really ridiculous thing he said there, which was you can't have capitalism and open borders. Actually, I think the real line is socialism, which is a little bit scary that he didn't quite realize that. But anyways, there are a couple more things too that he gave us a concession, or he gave libertarians concessions with. So KOL 4.
As everyone knows, it will be my great honor to pardon the peaceful January 6th protesters, or as I often call them, the hostages. They're hostages. There has never been a group of people treated so harshly or unfairly in our country's history. This abuse will be rectified, and it will be rectified very quickly. And if you vote for me on day one, I will commute the sentence of Ross Ulbricht to a sentence of time served.
So pardoning of Ross Ulbricht was a big thing going into this. And finally, there's KOL 5 says, one more kind of big concession potentially to the libertarians.
The reason to take a chance of having this horrible president destroy our country, which he will do in far less than 4 years. It's not going to take 4 years. That is why I'm committing to you tonight that I will put a libertarian in my cabinet, and also libertarians in senior posts. Pretty good. That's pretty big. Or you can keep going the way you have for the last long decades and get your 3% and meet again, get another 3%. No, you want to make yourself winners. It's time to be winners. You have a lot of common sense. It's time to be winners.
It was kind of interesting. Some cheers, some boos. It was kind of a big mix. But I did think that was really telling, though, that Trump didn't quite understand it's open borders and socialism and not capitalism. That's the whole argument for libertarians, right? Why we want open borders.
Yeah, well,
we'd all be for open borders, if not for the social safety.
Well, it's at least a breath of fresh air that he wasn't reading off of a teleprompter, because otherwise he wouldn't have made that mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, he looked like he did have teleprompters there, which is even more alarming, because maybe it means his writers don't know the difference.
That could be.
It's possible. It's possible.
I'd like to know his definition of libertarian. Just out of curiosity. Now, would he stick someone like Thomas Massey or Justin Amash or on the in there in his cabinet somewhere? Sure, maybe. But
or will he call his son a libertarian and then put him on the cabinet?
I don't think he'd want Rand Paul out of the Senate. I think it'd be silly to take Rand Paul out of the Senate. So I don't think it would happen. I think hopefully he's smarter than that he wouldn't pull Rand Paul out of the Senate. So you'd find someone, a Justin Amash or someone of that nature. And even then, again, depending upon your definition of libertarian, there's libertarians who don't think Justin Amash is a libertarian. As stupid as that is, there are people who don't think Justin Amash is libertarian. So, but again, until these things happen, I treat Trump like a teenager. Until stuff happens, you can tell me anything you want. And it's not like I treat Biden or Newsom or anybody else any differently. I've been around the block. I'm 54 years old. I've been listening to these people for 40 years. I have no reason to believe a dang thing any one of them has to say, especially during election season.
Well, I do know one person who was very happy to hear the news from that, and that was Ross Ulbricht, because I think he's already been interviewed or something about this, and I think he's actually pretty happy that he's got that commitment.
If I was Ross, I'd be happy too, right? At least it's a light at the end of the tunnel. I just hate for that light to be switched off. If it, you know.
And by the way, for our guests,
get my hopes up.
Yeah, but for anybody who doesn't know who Ross Ulbricht is, he's literally somebody who just essentially built the platform Silk Road. A lot of illegal contraband was purchased from different parties on that site, but he only did the platform, and that's all he was charged for. And he got 2 consecutive life sentences with no possibility for parole for doing that, and he served 11 years of that. So this is why libertarians are pretty eager to get him out. And it has a lot of implications just for, liberty, the idea that you can build something, even a platform for free speech. If somebody comes in and says something, maybe against the law, and suddenly you're going to jail. So I don't know. Anyways, yeah. So
no, it'd be great news if it happens. I just, again, I'm not holding my breath. Is what I'm pointing at. Holding my breath.
Well, I will tell you this. Okay, I will tell you this. If you look at the history of Donald Trump, if he make promises publicly, he tend to keep them. So
I guess it depends upon how you interpret the promise, right? Like the huge walls built with rebar and concrete. So, I try to work on the walls.
The wall wasn't going as fast. The wall wasn't going as fast as we would like it, but it was going. So
yeah. sort of a half promise. So, Mexico will pay for it.
That part was always ridiculous. It's true. You're right.
Well, no, the Democrats managed to pull it off, right? The Democrats managed to run through his life and make up all kinds of goofy charges to send him through courts. He didn't do any of that. He promised it, but he didn't do it. They did it to him.
He promised what? I'm
not to jail Hillary. Remember when he talking about lock her up, and the Democrats actually, followed through. One of the, actually they follow through on a lot of terrible things.
Yeah. The joker to the left of me, clowns to the right of me, and that's what I've got.
Yeah. The Maginot Line, the Great Wall of China, there isn't a wall that hasn't been gone under, over, around, or through in the history of mankind. They are absolutely worthless.
No. Tim, no.
Name me a wall.
The wall
kept anybody out. What's a wall for? Is a wall to keep people out or keep people in?
Keep people out, okay? Keep people out. The wall was not
Let's hear of a wall that worked.
The wall was not intended to keep every single illegal alien from entering the United States. It was intended to keep most out, because you are right, walls could be breached. And I'm sure if the wall is ever constructed as Trump envisioned, it will be breached. But it's intended to make it more difficult for people to just walk across our damn borders and just show up here and say they have rights here in the United States. I believe in sovereignty, and this should be protected.
Yeah, but you can take care of that by dealing with the second part, Leon. But rather than spending your time and resources doing the second part, you take away the social safety net that is supporting them, and they don't come.
Yeah, you get rid of the attraction. That's what you get rid of if you really want to be successful. You get rid of the.
So I cannot disagree with that. But
the rest of the time,
the wall maybe just be an effective band-aid. That's all.
Okay.
Well, I do have one question before we move on to each of you. Maybe you guys could each give me a quick answer to this. But Trump did make a pitch, and I probably wouldn't even ask this, but a lot of libertarians took this seriously, as we're going to find out in our next topic. And so the question is, what would each of you guys do this particular election? I mean, my thought has always been, for sure, if you're in a non-battleground spot, definitely vote Libertarian, because it will help us get the message out in the future. And if you're if it's close, and if you think one party's really worse than the other, then maybe vote your conscience. But that's kind of the way I see it. What do you guys? How do you guys see the whole pitch for libertarians to not waste their vote?
Well, every election cycle, the Libertarian candidate and the Republican candidate are the two people I never consider the Democrats, okay? I never do. But the Libertarian candidate and the Republican candidate are the two people always under consideration, okay? But I can tell you right now, we'll get into this in the next segment, the Libertarian candidate is totally off my radar right now. I will not consider voting for him. I will not.
Well, we know which way you're going then. What about
Thank
you,
you.
Tim?
For me, since we live in California, none of our votes count. It doesn't matter.
Yes, true.
Who we vote for, so none of it counts. It's going to be 2/3, so basically 2-1 Democrat, and so the Democrat's going to win. It's a winner-take-all electoral college or electoral vote state, so they're going to get all the electoral college votes, whoever the winner is, and that winner will be Joe Biden in California. So it makes absolutely not a single bit of difference. They could take 10 average Californians, 6 of them would vote for the Democrat, 3 would vote for the Republican, and 1 would vote for all combined third parties. And so obviously the Democrat would win. So it just doesn't matter to us. To answer the question about if there was this close state or a state that divvied up the electoral college votes, then you would definitely want to vote for whoever you felt was the best candidate. So we have in California the luxury of not voting for the other guy, voting for the halfway guy, voting for the all the way guy, or whatever we want to vote for, because none of it makes a hill of beans worth of difference.
I only vote in ways that I can sleep at night. So I will never take poison. So I will never vote for someone who I think is poison. And if it means I'm not voting in that particular election, then I don't vote in that particular election. I will not take part in something that will go direction that I cannot, at least in part, in support philosophically. Right? I can have philosophical differences with people, have them all the time that I can support, right? Mainly because our philosophical differences don't matter if they don't believe in government power. Right? We can have all the philosophical differences we want. If the person doesn't believe in the government power to enforce those differences, then it's not relevant. So I personally never vote for poison. So it's not the lesser of two evils is still evil. If it's the lesser of three evils, I won't vote. That's my, and I don't care if I'm in a state where it doesn't matter, or if I'm in a state where if I don't vote, it's going to be a tie. Then we're getting a tie. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah. So, and that's the way I may go this year too. Joe Jorgensen last year, floated my boat. I voted for her. Happy to do it, even though it didn't matter. Still won't matter, but
well, it actually does help a little bit, because the more you get the numbers building up for libertarians, the more seriously people have to take their block. That's
true.
Yeah,
that's true. And also, the more people that don't vote, believe me, they follow that and track that even more than who votes for a libertarian. Because the powers that be, when they see that people aren't interested anymore, that they've all given up, that's a bellwether of bad things around the corner, and they pay attention to that too.
Okay. Well, let's jump into what actually happened in Libertarian Party business, which the main thing that came out of the convention is we have our 2 candidates now, our presidential candidate and our vice presidential candidate. And so there was a lot of sort of, I guess you'd say, drama around this time. So Jane, maybe you could bring up the visual. So this is a Wikipedia page, and it's kind of nice because they actually show the rounds of the voting and everything else. But so our candidates, we have Chase Oliver. We interviewed him on the show about a year ago, and Mike Termott. We've interviewed him a couple of times. So, as far as I'm concerned, I feel like both of these are good candidates. Although I know that there's a huge difference of opinion on this. This is something where, just to let you know, the way the balloting went. So the guys get they don't get elected as a ticket, so that's one of the big things. If you're that makes it different than the other parties. Both guys run separately, the vice president and the president. And that's actually the way things were done at the beginning of the country too. So, maybe another reason the Libertarian party is a little closer to the founding fathers. But if you looked here, it was actually Michael Rechtenwald was sort of the favorite. He was the guy who was backed by the Mises Caucus, and they're the ones who are sort of in control of the party at the moment. And he was leading in most of the votes up until about the sixth round, I think. And that's when Chase Oliver overtook him, as different people were eliminated, and those votes got divvied up between the two of them. And finally, Chase Oliver won in the seventh round. And so Michael Rechtenwald, being backed by the Mises Caucus, was pretty close to being an anarcho-libertarian. So that's somebody who pretty much wants no government, I think, is pretty close to his position. Chase Oliver is a little more of a pragmatist, maybe minarchist, might be a better ways to describe him. But we do have a video clip from our show where we interviewed him before, and I think it's important for people because there's a lot of kind of misinformation, maybe potentially misinformation. There's a lot of controversial things that people are saying about Chase Oliver, and I think this video clip from our interview with him really shows what his ultimate driving philosophy is. So maybe you could play, I think it's KOL 6.
And it just seems that the longer I'm here in the liberty movement, the more closely I get to being minimalist of government, which is minarchist, where I'm at now. Not quite an anarchist. Friends in the liberty movement, and I respect their position, and I hope they join me in cutting down government from where it is right now, which is far away even from minarchy. But yeah, the ideal is to get government down to basically securing our sovereignty in our borders as a military from attack from outside of our borders, and to secure people's liberty and property through contract and the adjudication ability that we have through the courts. That's about it. I also call it the night watchman state. But yeah, it's about as close to anarchy as you can get while still having a government.
So I just wanted to play that because there's an awful lot of people saying an awful lot of things, and he does have some maybe personal life views that may differ from some, of the norm. But in the end, I think that clip makes it pretty clear that he is not for government getting into your life to deal with a lot of these things. So I just wanted to play that clip going into this. So now to bring up the visual here. So coming out of this, there's an article here from Newsweek. Libertarian candidate's drag queen comment sparks Republican backlash. So this is something that followed immediately after all of the dust was settled, and suddenly it was, well, here's a guy who doesn't think drag queen story time is a bad thing. Here's a guy who has pictures of him. Maybe they're throwing a lot of pictures of him going around. Let's see. Here's an image where they show this is what we wanted, and they're showing a picture of Malay, and then they're saying here's what we got. And so of course it's somebody showing sort of a pride shirt with the Libertarian Party and a mask, which obviously that kind of symbolizes a little bit with lockdowns, which is a big problem for a lot of people in the Mises Caucus. So a lot of these little signals maybe have kind of driven a rift into the party, I think, right now, even though, as I said before, he clearly, it doesn't seem like he's trying to push masks or vaccines on people. It's simply that those happen to be his preferences, I think. So anyways, let's jump into some of this. What do you, well, here, I'll actually show a little bit more too. There is, so here is something about the masks. Here's a post from Chase Oliver that Tim had found, and it says, "So I am having Thanksgiving of less than 10 people, and we will be masked inside when we eat, since masks have to come off. We will be we have spacing happening. It's not impossible to be responsible. Limit the size, wear a mask when not eating, space yourself accordingly." So again, these things kind of feel like stuff that was associated with the left during the lockdowns. And finally, there was the stuff about the drag queen story time and the idea of, I guess, transgender care, I guess, and stuff like that. And his thoughts on that. And this was this came from a particular interview with Austin Peterson, and he analogized drag queen's story time to the Wiggles, which kind of struck a lot of people as a little bit off. So that's kind of what's sparking a lot of the controversy here. I think they don't feel like he is as, I guess, hardcore libertarian on economics potentially, or reducing government's impact in your life. And that seems to contrast a little bit with what we got out of him in our interview. So I'll just throw it out there to you guys. What do you guys think about all of this?
Tim, you can go ahead, man. Tim, go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, James, go ahead.
Well, one, there's always a rift in the Libertarian Party after a convention, especially if it's a presidential convention and a group doesn't get what they want. It happens every single.
James, I also should preface your comment just with one more thing. About half of the party, the Mises Caucus, has said they won't vote for him in the regular election. So I just wanted
the same group that didn't vote for. They didn't vote for Joe Jorgensen the last time either. They're not. It is what it is, right? It's the same group of people. There's always a group of people who will either stay home because the person isn't libertarian enough in their view, whatever that view is, and the other group will always vote for the party member. And then there's those of us who will make a choice on individual noises. We're libertarians from the ground up. This is how these things work. So I don't know. It's just this rift has always been there. There's nothing has been exposed. The rift it's always there. It's when we have an activist problem, right? Activists are terrible at running things. And so what happens is, and you watch, we'll see this in 2 years, a new group will take over and we'll end up rinse and repeating the same thing. Just wait for it. But until we get to a point where the party is actually representing the rank and file, the reason I'm not part of the National Libertarian Party is because I have no say in the National Libertarian Party. I give them my money, I give my effort, but yet I have no say because I don't go to conventions, right? A shareholder of Disney has more say in how Disney is operated than I have say in how the Libertarian Party is operated, right? They at least get to do their shareholder vote, right? At least if you own votable shares, right? At least they have more say in the party leadership, in Disney leadership than I do. And yet we, despite being 2024, we somehow have left the average libertarian out of the bag, out of the thing. We pay no attention. Only those activists who show up have a say. So you will always have an activist party, one way or the other. And because of that, you will always have a split. So until you can actually engage the rank and file, we're going to have a split. That's the difference between libertarians, Republicans, and Democrats. Republicans, they get the rank and file involved, even if it doesn't seem like it. Because there's so many of them, right? There's just so many of them all the time. They're involved. We have to get our rank and file involved, and the only way to do that is to send them a yearly ballot. Here's on your ballot to choose your party leadership. Send it back in. That's the way to long-term fix the party. It won't fix it right away, but in 20 years, after 20 years of that, we'll have a vastly different culture than we have now. Because right now our culture is selfish. We all want what we want. Whether it's minarchist, whether it's anarchist, somehow those two things are too far apart for each other, and we split on those lines, which is daft. It's a daft line to split, but that's what we always do. We always split where that if you're too much of a minarchist or you're too much of an anarchist, and rather than saying it's we're all in the same boat. Yeah, we're in the same boat, but one's rowing one way and the other's rowing the other. All we do is spin it. We need more oars who are willing to vote to row in the general direction. And I'm having a gnat problem in my office. This is terrible.
At least oars on both sides, so we're not going in circles.
Oh, we got oars on both sides, Jason. They're just pointing in different directions. They're working against each other. They're deliberately working against each other. That's actually the real frustrating part, Jason. They are deliberately working against each other. They're not just like, you know what, hands off. I'm going to let you all do it and go crash into the side or whatever. They're deliberately working against each other. It's one thing to say, all right, fine, you've won. You can go do your thing, and just watch to make sure that the processes are being followed and let the chips fall where they may. Well, we don't do that. We actively cut each other off at the knees. And there's a difference between cutting each other off at the knees and saying, okay, you can sink your swim on your own, but I'm not helping you swim. Right? You say you can swim on your own, so go swim on your own. That's what I did. And what I've done is we sit here and we focus local. That's where our solutions are, to focus and rebuild local.
Mm-hmm.
Our solutions always is.
We just a little while ago, Jason raised the issue about getting the message out about the Libertarian Party. And I think the whole message of liberty is something that is being lost in our great land. But when the Libertarian Party nominates a man like Chase Oliver to represent them out there, you're not building a message. What is happening to the Libertarian Party right now is that it's being set aside as a bunch of fringe and wackos. Because here's Chase Oliver. Let's take Oliver. That's the man we're talking about right now. This is a man who believes in transing kids. Transition is okay. You have to take them on a case-by-case basis, as he said on our show, but he thinks transing is a good thing. Let
me just clarify just a little bit. He has clearly said he is not for surgery, but he is for the hormone treatments. So the hormone treatment is bad enough. Okay. Yeah. However, okay, because those hormone treatments are totally irreversible to start with, and it's being done on kids. You're butchering kids chemically. But let's get back to the thing. What he said, actually, Jason, he does not necessarily mean surgery, which means he's open for it. No, he actually was on Austin Peterson's show and said that he did not support surgeries. He said they had to be over 18, but that's still, like you're saying, the hormone treatment is serious. In fact, we do have a very short clip of that, and I do want to play it since we're really diving into that point, and this maybe will help to clarify his point a little bit. So James, can you play KOL 7, and then Leon can jump back in on it?
I believe that parents and doctors should be setting care for their kids for the most part. I don't think that that's the realm of government. Again, as a minarchist, I don't think the federal government should be setting that policy. I think that's the policy between a parent and their doctor and their affirming care. If they want to go through that stuff, that's freedom. And you can like it or not like it, but I believe that a parent and doctor should be making those decisions in consultation with the child, because that's ultimately the authority figure, the patient, and the doctor. There's no room for government in there.
So essentially government out, but the parent, the child, and the doctor involved in the decision, which is real sticky area for libertarians. So sorry, Leon, back to you again. I just wanted to throw that out there because that really helps to clarify what his position is before we pick it apart. Gender affirming care. He used the word affirming care. He didn't use the word gender, but gender affirming care is nothing but mutilation and butchering of our children. And I don't know how else to say that. And this man believes in it.
Is he talking about hormone replacement therapy, which, for example, would be giving testosterone to a female to become more man? Or do we know this for sure? Is he talking about hormone blockers, which block when a child is going through puberty? It's puberty blocker.
Puberty blockers. All the therapy.
So you see, there's a big There's a big difference.
Yes.
Yeah,
But all the non-surgical therapies, which supposedly he believes in, the non-surgical therapies involve puberty blockers and the testosterone, giving testosterone to girls and whatever, and estrogen to the boys and whatever else they do. All of those things are irreversible, and those things mess up kids all over this country. This is going on right now as we speak. These are scientific. We just had two very good reports about this. One is the CAST report, and the other one was, I don't remember what the other one was, that just spoke about these very issues. And this man believes in it.
Well, the thing about those reports, Leon, is that you forget that under those reports, there is a percentage of kids who are saved from these things. Now, I agree with you. If they are not insanely careful, on who they choose, it can be insanely damaging. But those reports also say, right, the same reports that tell you that they are harming kids are also saying there's a selection of kids with whom they help. And guess what? I don't want to be the one sitting there picking and choosing who gets help and who doesn't. The government has no business being there picking and choosing who doesn't. I have no business. It's not my choice. It's not my business. And that's why, as long as in policy-wise, he's no different than Joe Jorgensen was. This is not anybody's decision. This is not the government's decision. This is not your decision. It's just not.
Let me ask you something, James. Could you abuse your child? Could you legally abuse
Leon,
your child?
you forget, Leon, I know people who these surgeries have saved. I have literally known them who they have saved. So you're sitting here telling me it doesn't harm everybody.
No, there's no such thing. There is no such thing.
It does help people.
There is no such thing.
One person,
please,
then it's worth
please.
If we have to be careful about who we use it to, I completely disagree that we have gone way over the line on who we apply it to. But we can't conflate these two. We have to be able to separate the stuff from the stuff.
Please answer my question. Please answer my question. Can I legally abuse my kids?
Define abuse. 2 weeks ago, I watched a child. No, Leon, 2 weeks ago, I watched the city come down. I watched the
I will define. Let me define abuse.
I'll answer that question. Yes, you can legally abuse your kid because you can give them, you can circumcise them and cut off body parts, and you can do that legally.
Fine, I'll be consistent and say we should stop that. But yes, cutting off healthy body parts is abuse. That's my definition. Given chemicals.
We're not talking about cutting off children.
Let me finish. You asked me to define abuse. Let me finish. Giving chemicals to kids that interferes with their natural process of development, that is child abuse.
We don't know what someone's natural process of development is.
What do you mean we don't know?
Because Leon, I have a child who has had chemical imbalances. So how do we balance it out? Do we just let him be chemically imbalanced, or do we help him?
Well, let me jump in real quick.
Leon, it's not any different. You're just picking and choosing because of
let me say
nobody else's business between the doctor and the families. That's it.
No,
if you want
to let me exercise the host prerogative here, because I did want to jump in with a kind of an analogous issue here. And James, I just pulled this up, but maybe you could bring this visual up, because this is kind of on parallel with the same issue. Because when you're talking about who decides, now Chase Oliver is really clear. He doesn't want the government in there. He wants it to be a decision with the parent, the child, and the doctor. And I mean, it's wow. I mean, I can't imagine wanting to do that to my kids. But once again, I don't know that I want the government making the decision either. But here is an analogous issue, and that's Christian Science, right? I mean, do we want a Christian Science parent to be prosecuted if they decide that maybe the vaccine isn't right for their child? Or maybe if they decide that, hey, there's a life-saving operation, but they prefer to pray? I mean, this is kind of an analogous issue here. Do we want the government to make that decision on what the right thing is, or would we rather kind of minimize the issue by letting it be the parent and the doctor and the child making that decision? I personally, I'd be a little bit alarmed if we got into a situation where, let's say, we became maybe an Islamic country, and suddenly there's some sort of a decision where maybe that religion doesn't want certain things being done, and suddenly you can't take your child to the doctor because that's out of the ballpark. I mean, I don't think I think it almost better to err on the side of letting the children or letting the parents and the doctors figure it out rather than the government. But anyways, that's kind of the analogy I'm taking of it, that there are parallels that go in the other direction is all I'm saying. So I guess, what do you guys think about that?
Yes.
Well, let's point out that a lot of this has happened because the government mandated that insurance companies cover these procedures. If these procedures were paid by cash, you wouldn't be seeing a lot of these. You just wouldn't. Yeah. You'd only be seeing the most extreme cases because those are the people who would want it.
Yes, there are parallels, Jason. I agree. There are parallels. Yes, I agree. Okay. And we should look into those things to see if they cross any line. But there is no amount of surgery and no amount of chemicals in this world that can change a boy into a girl or a girl into a boy. There is no such thing. This is an impossible delusion. Gender dysphoria is a mental disorder. And I have total compassion for the people who suffer with that disorder. And I'm all in for treating this as a mental disorder and working as much as we can and allowing parents to make decisions about the treatment of their child in terms of their dysphoria. But there is no amount of chemicals or no amount of surgery in this world that could change a boy into a girl or a girl into a boy. So I don't see why any parent should be allowed to abuse their child in this manner.
By the way, I did want to inject here now. If you're watching this is exactly what's ripping the Libertarian Party apart right now over this nomination. So you can kind of see the kind of fire that we've got going here. This is literally what's going on.
Well, and I want to point out, we're arguing over one personal views of policy, right? Because there is no policy position. The Libertarian policy position is we don't have one. Right? There is no
government out of it.
Yeah. It's to keep the government out. So we're not even arguing over a policy position. We're arguing over personal positions where most of us agree with 80% of everything else. We're literally arguing over slices of things. And we're going to go agree with someone who we only agree with 50% of, but we're going to vote for him because he kind of agrees with us on this issue. And hey, if you're a single issue voter or a 1 or 2 issue voter, that's fine. You have every right to be. So I'm just not that way.
Well, James, let me tell you me, okay? I can tell you about me. I believe in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, okay? Gender affirming can interferes with that.
And big government interferes with it more.
I will agree. Big government is a threat, but I do not see.
Picking my poison, Leon. I'm picking my poison.
I don't see how little kids should suffer for the abuse of this abuse. And political agendas to dictate what should happen to our children in our society. Thank you very much.
I will say the biggest killer, I think, of children is probably government interference. I mean, socialism has killed countless children around the world. But go ahead, Tim. Do you have
parents in poverty? It does all kinds of things, and so the less we have, the better off we are. Look, this is not one of those things where I'm not drawing a line on this one because it's not a policy position. It's a personal one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tim, we didn't hear from you. Go ahead, please.
We're still the silent minority.
Yeah, I'm so used to it. I play the role well. Nah, that's okay. I think you guys hashed that out enough.
We can go in circles some more if you want.
Well, I have a lot more fire. We could sit down here and take the next 2 hours and go through that.
Let's go on.
Well, actually, I did want to give a chance. You know, we seldom talk about this on the show, but on Public Access Sacramento, we are not the only libertarian show. In fact, we're kind of the spinoff of this show, and that's James's show, Libertarian Counterpoint. And so I just wanted to, they've had a lot of evolution. In fact, they've been going on for like 20 years or something like that, James?
33 years now.
33 years, so it's as old as time. And let me, we do have a real quick clip so that you can see it, but the show plays on Thursday nights at 7 o'clock, or is it 7 or 8? 8 o'clock. Sorry, and I've only been on the show, and I can't at the time.
It replays twice more, and I don't know when those replays are. So go to accesssacramento.org and look at the schedule.
Yeah, they played at alternate times, but the key one, the prime time one, is 8 o'clock.
Live
And
at
so,
8 every first and third Thursdays. We're actually live on first and third Thursdays.
Yes. So chance for high wire, no mistakes. But anyways, here is a quick visual, and then we'll find out from James what some of the new developments are, because I have been doing some new stuff with the show. So this is KOL 8.
Welcome to Libertarian Counterpoint. I am your host, James. Just with me today is Mr. John Cameron. But before we start, we want to thank Access Sacramento for giving us this opportunity to spread our message.
So that's just kind of a little snippet. They are in studio, so that's definitely a difference from our show. And maybe one of these days we'll find some a little bit more energetic clips there. But I ran out of time. Sorry, James. But yeah, tell us about what's going on with the show.
That happened actually was the end of a really long day. So the fact that I was still standing was actually a pretty good. I'd been at work 12 hours. I happen to actually work at Access Sacramento, run the radio station over there. And so, yeah, what we're doing is the same thing we've always been doing. We, unlike here where we dive deep into topics, 1 or 2 topics, over there we cover 6 or 7 topics every night, just cover them briefly, give our opinion on the news, kind of the news of the day or long-term philosophy. Our goal is to spread the word as much as possible. So the goals are a little different. We only have 28 and a half minutes, so we don't get to go an hour and a half. And so, yeah, so it's 4 or 5 minutes a topic, unless John goes on a rant, and then we move on.
And you guys have
John going on a rant. Wow.
Yeah, we can hit topics. We can go through 3 or 4 topics in a couple minutes. We are well practiced at that. We can.
Would you guys also bring back Richard Fields for a video insert segment? So it's almost like he's giving a little video essay now, which is kind of cool. I mean, you guys hadn't been doing that, and that's kind of a new development this last year, right?
Yeah, Richard is my mentor. I was a substitute host when he went on a world tour, and on his world tour, COVID happened. So. Yeah, and then he never got the seat back. He didn't want it back when he came back, and so now it's mine. And so yeah, now it's my show. We've started standing up. We used to sit down around a table. We now stand up at podium, mainly because John's back is really the actual reason we started doing that. Just to give you guys a little insight. Well, it looks better though. It looks good, but yeah, it was to help John's back is the real reason we did that.
Okay. Well, I got to tell you, it's a lot of fun. And hey, sometimes you may catch me or Leon on the show. And even Tim has been on there when they were doing it remotely. So
on the 18th, I believe, July 18th, I think it's the 18th, we're having the Sacramento Taxpayers Association. I believe Bruce Lee is going to be on. I believe.
Awesome.
Bruce Lee.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe it's not the 18th, 13th, or 6th. I don't know. He's coming. Maybe it's August. Anyway, Bruce Lee's coming up in the Sacramento Taxpayers Association one of these days. I don't know. Gail's schedule is not me. As Jason knows, I don't do guests. I don't do guests scheduling. We know that well.
Okay. Well, I think that it kind of gives you a sense of some of the other stuff. And by the way, we are on 5:30 on public access on Mondays. So that's where you can catch us. But we're about at that time where we're getting ready to wrap up. And so now's a good time for our Knucklehead Noise Patrol. So this time... That's why we've been talking about Republicans and Libertarians the whole show. It's about time to talk about some Democrats here. And so, well, it's funny. Libertarians kind of spent the week shooting themselves in the foot a bit, and now it's a chance for the Democrats. So here we go. This was something that actually happened about 3 weeks ago. So this is not super new because we only get one of these a week. So sometimes they pile up, but we couldn't let this one go by. This is Kathy Hochul and what she really thinks about. Maybe you could show the visual, James, real quick. she was on a show and she was talking about some of the computer literacy things she was pushing in her state. And she kind of said cringingly what she thought about some of the kids, some of the black kids, I guess, in the Bronx. And oh my gosh, maybe you could play KNP1 for us.
Because right now we have, young black kids growing up in the Bronx who don't even know what the word a computer is. They don't know. They don't know these things. And I want the world open up to all of them, because when you have their diverse voices.
So it seems like they can't help themselves but fixate on race to the point where they just shove their whole foot in their mouth about race. What do you guys think about this? Kids don't even know the meaning of the word computer. Come on.
Jason, I wish I would have been paying attention when you put the things on, because I saw a clip of a TikTok video of some black teenagers in the Bronx put together a clip of them going through an Apple store like they're cavemen, Yeah, cavemen looking at this thing.
Computer?
What is this? I don't know. Walking around the Apple store like they're cavemen. So I would have brought that if I'd have known. If I should need to pay more attention.
Well, this is the governor of New York. I mean,
how does anybody not think that most people are going to know what a computer is? I mean, there might be some hillbilly in the back of West Virginia or somewhere that hasn't seen a computer, but they probably know what the word is. Probably heard it,
Does anybody know anything about the Milk Institute that she was speaking in front of?
No, I really don't.
Is that the Harvey Milk Institute?
Maybe it is. Maybe it is. I don't know.
Don't know.
I would have thought that would have been in San Francisco because that's where the guy did his politics, I thought. But
yeah.
That's true. It tells you where my reference is from. Jason. It's California. I have no clue.
Yeah.
What does Tim have to say about this? About this?
Yeah. Well, what was I saying prior to the show? Insulting,
derogatory,
racist.
Insulting, and racist.
Racist, yeah. Derogatory, insulting, and racist all at the same time to this kind of thought. So not only
that's Kathy Hochul's new campaign slogan. Yeah,
there you go.
So not only do the black kids in the Bronx don't even know the first thing about computer, including what it means, but they also don't have an ID. So they're no wonder, they don't have an ID either. Well, no black person has an ID. We know that, or very few.
Oh yes,
not enough.
Oh yes,
or a significant amount do not have a.
According to Joe Biden, I mean, that would just be a disaster if you required IDs for voting.
Of course.
He wouldn't get elected. I mean, that's a significant number of the voting bloc. So that's a lot of people that don't have IDs. Okay, another situation.
I guess we'll have to adapt that, Tim. You see, in the last presidential election cycle, Joe Biden told us if we can't tell the difference between him and Donald Trump in terms of our voting patterns, we ain't black. Now we have Kathy Hochul, the esteemed governor of New York, telling us that we who live in the Bronx, we who have share skin color like me, we can't know about computers. We're too dumb to know about computers. Over 60 years ago, a man named Malcolm X warned us about these people, white liberals. They come with a smile and they make you think they are your friends. These people are nothing but a bunch of modern day racists. They and the Ku Klux Klan have a lot in common. So, like I said, when we first spoke about that, I think we spoke about this before, it's an election time. So you're going to always hear these white liberals coming up with their things that they're going to save us. You see Kathy Hochul, you know what she said after that? You didn't play the whole clip, Jason. You know what she said after that?
Something about Yeah.
Opening up the world to these kids. She's going to save us black people. Joe Biden, he is going to save us too. Mr. Racist, he's going to save us too. Just like Lyndon Johnson, he was trying to save us when he gave us a great society that destroyed the black family in America. He is going to save us. These white liberals are out there trying to save us. Pause. Oh my God. We need these white people to save us. Oh God.
Yep.
And every election cycle, they come with the same horse crap. Every election cycle. You know what we're going to be hearing about over the next 5 months? We're going to be hearing a lot about reparations. Believe me. Watch and see. They're going to save us. Don't worry.
Yeah, look, they're going to save you from systemic racism, Leon, with more system. That's how they're going to do it.
Well, I guess we won't have to worry about reparations if they can't find a computer to.
They can't get a voting ID to identify themselves. So I guess,
Well, I can't. I think we've about exhausted the show here, but again, kind of a really tumultuous show on the Libertarian Party. That's the only way we ride in the Libertarian Party.
Welcome to the Libertarian Convention without being at the Libertarian Convention. There you go. You got it.
If I may say, there's we have a few comments on the show. Could I read one of them, please?
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's a mystery to me. So.
Okay. From somebody named Zipper Marie. I don't know who that person is. I don't know if anybody knows who that person is. But the person says, Mr. Leon, I feel you are crossing the line. Trans affirmation treatments are to align the psychological identity of the child with their body. It's not about changing the person. Okay, Zipper Marie, I would like to talk to you, okay? That's my open challenge to you.
Well, maybe, if we get enough of these comments, we'll have a little mailbag where you can answer them. But until then, I guess you'll probably have to answer online. We're about exhausted on the show this time. And I don't want to get us back into those choppy waters again, though. But thanks for that question. Is it Zipper Marie? And
Zipper Marie, yes. Zipper Marie, yes.
You'll get an answer one way or another.
There you go.
So thanks so much. And I tell you, we've got a lot of other interviews out there online with a lot of other people. We're hoping to get some more interviews lined up soon. And especially with that local group that is, they've been busy going to city council or I guess county meetings and such like that, letting them know, giving them a piece of their mind on some of the actions they've been taking. So we definitely want to talk with them about some of their recent activism and some of the maybe in a few weeks. And hopefully we'll have some more guests lined up as well. But like I said, you can check out a lot of the good conversations we've had with people, including a lot of these libertarian candidates as well online. You go check out that Chase interview as well. Find out a little bit more about what he thinks now that he's the candidate. But until the next show, think about what you...
Jason, if you want to vote me out of office, show up at the meeting on July 15th. You can vote me out of office. Please vote me out of office.
To do that, though, you'll have to vote for somebody else, which means you have to get another candidate.
That's what happened. That's why I'm still chair. All right.
But yeah, definitely think about what you could be doing. And hey, it sounds like James might actually have a position as chair of the Libertarian Sacramento County. So you can. I think I'm a little bit too tied up with this show at the moment, but maybe eventually. Until next time, think about what you can do in your community, because I tell you, that's what all this is about. And like what James is talking about, ground up, bottom up in your community, that's where we can make the biggest difference right now. So think about what you can do. And boy, there's been a lot of great people that we've talked to who've done a lot in their communities. So maybe take some inspiration for that. But until the next time, stay tuned and stay free.
Oh, yes, indeed. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, always and forever.
Thank you for listening to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your favorite podcast network, and at knuckleheadsofliberty.com.